Ethan Caldwell sat alone in the corner of the cafe, nursing his third espresso and quietly questioning every decision that had brought him here. At 44, he had everything success could buy. A thriving software empire, a skyline apartment, and invitations to events filled with people who smiled too easily and cared too little. Yet for all his accomplishments, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere along the way, he'd traded connection for control. That's why his sister, Grace, had insisted on setting up this blind date. "She's different, Ethan," Grace had said. "She's real. Just meet her." So here he was, wearing his tailored charcoal suit like armor, preparing to endure another predictable hour of small talk with someone who'd likely Googled his name before agreeing to meet. The door to the cafe opened, and a young woman stepped in, scanning the room. She looked to be in her early 30s, dressed simply in a worn olive jacket, faded jeans, and canvas sneakers whose soles had seen better days. Her auburn hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, and she carried a scuffed brown backpack that had clearly traveled far. When she spotted him, her face lit with a smile so warm it almost startled him. "Ethan?" she asked as she approached. "I'm Maya, Grace's friend from the community center." Ethan stood, his manners automatic despite his surprise. "You're Maya?" He hadn't expected this, a woman who looked completely out of place in the polished minimalist cafe. "Please, have a seat," he said, his tone a bit sharper than intended. Maya sat down, carefully setting her backpack beside her chair. She looked around the cafe not with discomfort, but with appreciation, noticing the details, the light filtering through the windows, the aroma of roasted coffee beans. "This place is lovely," she said. "I've walked past it so many times, but never had a reason to come in. Thanks for suggesting it." "I didn't suggest it," Ethan replied dryly. "Grace did." He heard the coldness in his voice and immediately felt a twinge of guilt. "Can I get you something?" "Just tea, please." "Any kind is fine." He ordered her tea and another espresso for himself, using the brief distraction to study her. Up close, she was prettier than he'd first thought. Not in the polished magazine cover way he was used to, but in a way that spoke of depth and kindness. Her eyes were expressive, her smile genuine. She carried herself with quiet confidence, not trying to impress, just being. "Grace says you run a tech company," Maya said once the waiter left. "That must be exciting." "It's demanding," Ethan said, crossing his arms. "Stressful, all-consuming. And you? What do you do?" "I'm the volunteer coordinator at the Riverbend Community Center," she replied. "I help run programs for families, tutoring, food drives, job training, that sort of thing." "That's not really a career," Ethan said before he could stop himself. "That's charity work." Her smile didn't fade, but her gaze sharpened slightly. "It's both," she said calmly. "I have a degree in social work and 8 years of experience helping people rebuild their lives. The fact that I don't chase profit doesn't make it any less valid." Ethan felt properly rebuked and shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I didn't mean to belittle it," she finished gently. "It's okay. You're right, it doesn't pay much. I live simply. But I'm rich in other ways." She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small, neatly wrapped package. It was wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. "Grace mentioned your birthday was last week," Maya said. "I made you something. It's just a small gift. You didn't have to." "I know. I wanted to." She pushed it toward him with a soft smile. Inside, Ethan found a small handmade leather journal, his initials embossed into the cover. The leather was soft and slightly worn, repurposed probably, but the craftsmanship was meticulous. "I make journals in my spare time," Maya said. "Grace told me you used to write when you were younger. I thought maybe you'd want a place to start again." Ethan ran his fingers over his initials. He hadn't received a handmade gift in decades, not one born of thought and care rather than money. His last birthday had brought expensive watches, wine, and donations made in his name. Nothing that felt human. Until now, it's beautiful, he said quietly. Thank you. Maya's smile deepened. You're welcome. When did you stop writing? She asked softly. He blinked. How did you know I stopped? Grace said you used to write, she replied. And because you have that look people get when they've traded passion for productivity, Ethan let out a small, breathless laugh. You don't pull punches. Life's too short for that. She wrapped her hands around her teacup. I learned that when my dad got sick. I was in corporate marketing then. Good pay, great titles, zero fulfillment. Watching him go made me realize I was spending my life on things that didn't matter. So I quit, took a pay cut, found purpose. He studied her. Don't you miss the security sometimes? Sometimes, she admitted. But not the emptiness, not the endless striving. I have enough now. I have work that means something. That's worth more than comfort. Ethan looked at her, really looked, and saw what his life had been missing. What makes you think you know anything about me? He asked. She smiled softly. Because I used to be you. And because Grace talks about you all the time, how brilliant and driven you are, but also how lonely. Ethan felt something in his chest shift. I don't need pity. Good, she said. Because I don't give pity. I give honesty. She leaned forward slightly. You walked in here expecting another shallow date. What you got instead was someone who sees through your armor. You've built walls so high you've mistaken them for safety. He exhaled slowly. You've known me for 20 minutes. Am I wrong? Ethan wanted to say yes, but he couldn't. No, he said finally. You're not. They talked for hours about work, loss, purpose, art, and the meaning of success. When the cafe finally closed, he walked her to the bus stop. She protested, but he insisted. Under the streetlight, he held the handmade journal close to his chest. Thank you, he said. For this, for seeing me. There's a lot to see, she said with a soft smile. You just have to be brave enough to let people look. Her bus pulled up, and she shouldered her backpack. I'll text you about volunteering. We start early. 6 a.m. I'll be there, Ethan promised. He was. The next morning. And the morning after that. Every weekend for months. He sorted food donations beside Maya, served meals, listened to stories, and slowly rediscovered what it meant to be alive. To matter. His colleagues thought he'd lost his mind. Grace just smiled. Maya never asked for anything, except his time, his honesty, and his heart. 6 months later, Ethan proposed in the same cafe where they'd met. With a simple silver ring he'd made himself in a jewelry class she'd convinced him to take. Yes, she said through tears. But only if we promise to keep doing what matters. Always, he said. She'd arrived that day looking like she had nothing. But Ethan had discovered that she had everything. Authenticity, courage, compassion. She had shown him that the richest people aren't the ones with the most, but the ones who give the most. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. Sometimes love finds us not in the halls of wealth, but in the quiet moments when we choose to see and be seen. Ethan had thought he was meeting a woman who had nothing. Instead, he met the woman who helped him find everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below about what true wealth means to you. Your stories inspire us all.